Hey everyone, welcome back to Philosophical Fall Guy. Here we talk to the industry's top stunt performers and go behind the scenes to hear their stories. Then we dive a little deeper to see what they ponder about in those moments of silence between the chaos. I'm your host, Duke Jackson. So today we're doing something a little different. My sister has come up here to interview me, and I'm going to also be on her podcast called Label Breakers. So I'm going to let her kind of take the reins on this. So, Krystal Travis,
Yes.
this
Hey,
is
brother.
go ahead. This is your game here. So
All right.
introduce however you like.
All right. So, hey, guys, this is an honor to be on my brother's podcast and in his studio. With Label Breakers, we help you see yourself as the creator sees you so you can break off all the negativity that the world puts on you so that you can live in purpose, on purpose, and with the one who is your purpose. And it is coming up over 2 years in almost. This show will be
Wow.
on my 100th episode of
Wow.
Label Breakers.
Congratulations.
So thank you. So
I know
I
that
have
takes a lot of work and a lot of time
it does,
to
but it
invest in
has
that.
been an amazing 2 years,
Mm,
and I have had you on Label Breakers a couple times, which is
mm,
always an honor. But I thought this would be super cool and super fun because those who watch my Label Breakers know my studio is very low key. And so I just thought it would be fun. And I love what you're doing with
mm.
Philosophical Thought Guy.
Thank you.
Every episode is so intriguing, and you have amazing guests. Guys, my label breaker guys know I cry a lot. So, guys, I'm sorry. It's happy tears, believe me.
That's
But
all right. Let them flow.
I got lots of emotions in me.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, you do.
Yes, you know, you've been with
I
me for
know.
lots of years. Um, but so I really enjoy, what you're doing and supporting that and um, walking out your purpose in that way. So,
Hmm.
so for um, to smash it up here a little bit on our podcast, I kind of want to, do like what we've done. What we do on Label Breakers is, um, you know, have a label that has defined you in your life and has been difficult, and so we break that label. God breaks that label off of you,
Hmm.
and then He puts a new label on you. You put a new label on yourself,
Hmm.
and you start living in that label and in that
Hmm.
um and you I don't even like the word label necessarily for a good one, but you start living in purpose, on purpose, and with the
Hmm.
one who is your purpose when we step into who we fully are, into the identity
Yeah.
that we know who our creator is. We know his identity. As we keep growing and knowing in that, we grow and know our identity more too. So
Hmm.
that's what Label Breakers is all about. And I have got the honor to interview some amazing guests also
Hmm.
through the years, and ones that have been my mentors, ones that are my friends, ones that are my family. I was just talking to a guy on the phone from Xfinity the other day, and he was like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "I'm an author and a podcaster." He's like, "Oh, cool." And he's like, "Who do you interview? Do you interview famous people? Do you interview mentors? Do you interview people? Do you interview your family? Do you interview your friends?" I'm like, "Yeah, all the above." So it's been
All
a
of the
really
above.
great two
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
yeah.
Wow.
So
Well, I'm
um,
excited to be on your show again.
yeah,
Thank
I'm
you. Thank
always
you
excited,
for
and you
asking.
are always one of my top guests. Everybody always loves our episodes. I guess we got a little bit of chemistry. I mean, we should through
You would think so.
through the
Yeah.
50-ish years of
Yeah.
being
We won't say
together.
exactly how many, but
Yours
yeah.
right. I'm older, guys, so he's still young. He's still young for his
Yeah.
business. Um, but
Although I was
so
always the one that everybody thought was older for some reason.
yes, they did for a long time. I'm starting to get the grandma though. Like people are starting to see me as a
Are they?
grandma more. So, yeah. But so with that, I know I know you've got some people coming up to interview you, your full story, and we've kind of talked about it
Hmm.
a while ago how you got into stunts. But I know that's one of the questions that you ask on your show is like, what drew you? And I love your intro, like, what drives the mind in chaos? Because, yeah, I've seen your life. I've seen that everybody doesn't always see on the, they see the glamour, the guts, the whatever, but and I've been envious of your life, but I've also not, because like it's a different life that you have to just be able to pick up and go and be on a moment's notice and not have a typical schedule like other people.
Right.
But like a kid that I started you in your world of stunts. Like we filmed in our grandpa
That's
and
true.
grandma's backyard,
Yeah.
our first fight scenes.
Yeah,
and,
on what was that, like a 8mm or 16mm
yeah, something like,
camera
I don't
that
even know what
Grandpa
had
had
sound.
with no sound, actual film.
Yeah. So plus not just that,
Make
like
our own fight scenes.
literally like I would push you to the breaking point and you would like, come after me. Back then I could run a little better. I had my escape routes planned and I'd push you and you'd like, come fight me and go lock the door and hide. But
Well, you always had an escape plan, like you said.
I always had an escape plan. It's about the it.
Yes.
But yeah, so I know a little bit, like I started you in that, but it's not the total truth. So if you want to do a quick recap, just like share like what brought you into this world for your show and mine.
Sure. So a short recap, I guess. The first time I really thought about doing stunts, I was watching a film being made in Denver. It was a low-budget martial arts movie. We got invited to the set because I think Mom was doing a film class or something through the college or whatever. One of the many times Mom went back to school, and they had permission to be on the set to watch. So we came down there, and were you there?
I don't think I was.
I don't think so.
That day. Mm-mm.
So anyways, we went down there and I watched him do martial art fights all day long. And I was in martial arts at the time. So I was really into that whole world and scene and just thought that was the coolest thing ever. And then one of the guys did a high fall out of a skyscraper building, which was probably about 8 floors, and into an airbag. And I don't know, the moment I saw that, it just something inside of me just was like, it just lit up and was like, man, that's what I want to do,
Guys, that's the chaos.
What?
That's the chaos.
That's the chaos.
How many normal people that light you up?
Yeah, I don't know. It just something really went off in me, and so then I started to pursue it. And I think the first thing I tried to do was do a live stunt show in Denver. A small theme park, Elitch's. It was a Wild West stunt show, and I auditioned for it. Didn't even get the audition to begin with. One of the guys didn't really like me too much, but they talked to me and let me be on the team as a sound guy and train on the soundboard. And when I say soundboard, I mean a drum machine hooked up to speakers. Most ridiculous thing ever. But I did that, but the whole time I was training with the other guys, learning the roles of the show, because I really wanted to do the show, and also learning the high fall, and which I wasn't supposed to be doing, but I kind of went behind the back of the guy who was running it. And then one day, one of the guys didn't show up, and they had no choice but to throw me in, and it was all from then on. It was full on. I fell in love with performing, and once I got up on stage, they saw that I actually had a pretty good job, so I kept performing, and then just chasing it after that. Went to New Mexico to chase it, and got my SAG card on the Cowboy Way, acting, not stunts. And then I got flown over to Taiwan and did live shows over there, and came back and was doing a live show again in Colorado, the same theme park, and a movie crew just happened to show up and decided they were going to shoot the next Three Ninjas movie there, and that we would be perfect for a part of the movie. So got thrown into that, and decided I wanted to move to LA and tried to make it, which didn't work out very well. Hustled and tried my hardest, but couldn't really get anything. And I got back into live shows, so I went to Japan and was over there for quite a few years doing live shows, and then went back to California, got back into the live shows. I'm talking like, Universal Studios and Knott's Berry Farm, Magic Mountain, Disney, all of those places, and just kept at the live shows and trying to hustle and meet people that were actually working in the film business, and was getting a few things here and there slowly, but it was a long road until I came out to Atlanta in early 2014, and they were looking for stunt performers because there wasn't a lot here at the time, and I started working pretty consistently in the movies and TV shows that were being shot out here. Got on Hunger Games, the Mockingjay one, right away, and then after meeting people and training with them, started getting hired quite a bit, and kind of got me to where I am now. So
yeah, I know. Following your journey along, and I almost but we have 4 kids, so that going out to watch you in the live shows, like, that was a highlight of their life. Like when we, went out there the 4th of July that one year and watched you, and we got to go backstage, and we got to meet all the performers at Knott's Berry Farm and see all that. And they thought that was the best. And then we went to Universal and got to go in special to the Water World show and get special seats and meet all the cast.
The pre-seating and meet everybody.
Oh, this is so cool.
Felt like special, like you're pretty special, huh?
Yeah, everybody. We were like, oh, look at us, like, wow. Yeah. So that was super fun. But, and then, like, when you moved out here and started getting, a lot more work and doing things, and you were in every one of our favorite shows that we were, favorite movies, favorite TV shows.
Well, that was when Walking Dead was really big.
Walking
Dead, you guys were really into Walking Dead, and I worked quite a bit on that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we lived.
Did you ever go? We used to go to that bar downtown.
Yeah.
The Diesel and watch them. Yeah, watch the episodes of
Well,
Walking Dead.
we went there. Me and Jeff went there with you one time and watched one of the. I forget. It was one of the bigger episodes that was coming out, and
was that the one where they killed everybody?
No, because that one we had just moved to Tennessee, and we weren't sure how we were gonna be able to watch that, but we knew you were on it too. Plus, we were huge Walking Dead fans before you even got in Walking Dead, but then that just added to the amazement of it, So we actually, they did a showed it at the factory in Franklin, which is one of our favorite things. And so we watched it out in the courtyard, and they had zombies walking around.
Oh, really?
And they had the Talking Dead. They had a live thing after.
Yeah, where they would talk about it afterwards.
Yeah, talk about it there.
Yeah. It was a whole big deal, man.
That was a big deal. That one was a big deal. So
it was, I forget. That show was so popular.
Yeah. It really was. They kind of messed up when they did all that. Is they kind of lost a little bit of popularity after that. But it's still. I mean, I guess it's still going. We haven't continued watching all the spin-offs, but
I kind of lost track after a while.
Yeah,
too many.
So you being in that, and I would tease him, guys. He'd come visit us in Colorado when we still lived there, and I'd give him a hug bye, and I was like, well, if I don't see you, I'll see you in the movies, because we'd be watching the show, because he doesn't always share every show he was in till after it, or if it was a big deal, or even now I go on his IMDb and I'm like, we were in that. you were not. I didn't know he was not like. So I'm like, he wouldn't always share, but we'd be sitting watching an episode and be like, wait, was that two? Was that two? Rewind it.
Yeah, most of the time
Pause
it's
it.
pretty
Is
quick,
that
or
two?
I'm doubling somebody, you can't really tell. So,
Not
yeah,
always, but I mean, we recognized you, or when you're doubling people, we didn't
yeah.
know, but it was you. It was specific, until you told us that. Wait, I doubled
The one I
Daniel
got the
Craig.
most
Or,
texts and phone calls and everything was from Stranger Things.
oh,
That was the one that people recognized me
oh
because
yeah, that was a big one.
I was like on the screen for like seemed like 2 minutes.
Yeah,
Just me basically.
your pedophile face. The bus scene. That's what everybody says. No, but it was like, yeah, no, that was a
It
big
was an
deal.
FBI agent.
I know
Okay.
he was an FBI. Lots of times, my poor brother, like, I've seen you die way too many times, like, so many times, like, it's not good to
Yeah.
see your brother die so many times, but.
Well, that's my job.
But you're here and alive, so
Yeah.
thank God. But yeah, our he's always the bad guy, guys. Like most of the time, he's the bad guy.
Seems like it. Yeah.
And so,
Typically, or even doubling the bad guy. Yeah.
But guys, he's a really, really good guy. So, it's not typecasting for him at all. It's not.
I guess
he can do
That's
the
right.
angry eye good. So
It's acting.
it's acting. So, so, so I was just kind of thinking, like, I know you've gone through like a lot. You've played a lot of roles, so you've had a lot of labels put on you, like that, like the bad guy, which you're not a bad guy, but you've played that a lot, and so. What is, like, we've talked kind of personally before about some labels that God's removed off of you, but even through this industry and having that, even though it's acting, because I know I like acting too. I haven't done it like you, but I did it through college and I love doing plays, and Mom's always done plays. So when you do like assume a role, it does become a part of you, and so it can. So just curious, like, is there some labels that you've had to deal with through the industry, maybe through characters or, stunt characters that maybe you had to break off of you that you didn't really know, or ones that you...
Well, it's an interesting question. I mean, I will say for stunt acting, typically we don't have to go as deep into characters as like actors do, because we're there, just to say a couple lines and get beat up or killed. And so we're, typical thug type characters usually, or, something. So it's not as like a deep of a process to like go into a character that much. But, I've done a lot of acting classes, and got to play kind of a role here and there. But it is interesting, as an actor, when you start to take on a role, you have to figure out like what drives that person's motivations. So, like we do like a scene, if we do a scene, we have to what is the scene objective of your character? What does your character want from this scene? And they have to fight for that pretty much. So, and usually that comes from a very selfish motivation. When you're doing these characters, you basically have to assume that the character is pretty egotistical and selfish, and they want to get what their objective is, right? And then you have obstacles come in that you have to overcome to get this objective. And the objective may be even not as selfish as maybe your objective is you have to save somebody or you save some people or whatever. So you do kind of go into that process of having to think, okay, what do I want, and how am I going to get it? What am I willing to do, and how am I going to convince that other actor, that other scene partner that you're with, to give me what I want? And from seeing that, I kind of realized that we do that in real life. We're usually not as intentional, though. If we were more intentional, we would probably see a lot better results in life. But a lot of it is subconscious. Sometimes we're not completely conscious of what our objective is, what we want from life, what we're here to do, and we're just kind of drifting. But if you get down to it, there is a lot of subconscious drives that drive us. And I guess, you could call those labels, because they've been usually put on us, through authority figures in our lives, or maybe peers or whatever. And so we kind of adapt those labels and think that that's who we are. And it really may not be who we are. Like, I think my journey is, getting older, is trying to discover, like, who I am. What is my objective? What do I want? Because, as far as, label, like who we are, when it comes right down to it, we are these beings, these souls that are created in the image of God. And that soul, if you take that as your, core identity, then we are the image of God. We are part God, connected to God, because we come from God. So we're divine, I guess you could say. And then we get these egos that grow in our life, and we think that's who we are. And a lot of then going through middle age and getting older is trying to shed that ego that you've so developed your whole life and clung on to. And it's, it's a pretty difficult thing. I mean, a lot of these spiritual and philosophical movements today, basically a lot of it's about ego dissolution, trying to let go of the ego, and be, more of a, divine presence, I guess. But, I've kind of come to a conclusion that, you can't really ever, dissolve the ego. It's always going to be there. It's an identity, and we kind of have to have an identity, to kind of get through life. So then it's a matter of, well, and I don't know if you've ever followed Jim Carrey a little bit.
Jim Carrey, the actor?
Yeah.
A little bit.
And kind of his, I don't know what you want to call it, spiritual evolution that he's gone through. Because it's very, very interesting, because, when he went and played these roles, he got so into it that he lost himself.
Yeah.
Especially like when he was doing Andy Kaufman and some of those other roles, and then he was like, well, then who is Jim Carrey, really? If he can be lost, then who is he, So that gives us some power. Sometimes it's a little bit frightening power, that we can shape who we are, that we've been given that, we've been powered with that by our Creator to form our image, And you know, as a Christian, you look at Christ and you use him as that example to shape that image. But it still has to be intentional, when you're doing it, and that can be difficult. I find that old patterns and things, they just come automatic. They're like this, the default mode network where they just boom, they're there. That's how you're thinking. That's how you're processing, and it takes a lot of awareness to be able to step back and recognize that, okay, that's an old pattern that's trying to keep coming and run the program, and to step away from it and be like, okay, I can actually not have to run that program, even though it's hard, but if you're aware, it is possible for us to do. And I think, for me, like what's really been helpful is the breath, because, in the scripture, if I'm talking too much, just interrupt.
No, you can. I'm just trying not to cough. I got a tickle in my throat.
Okay. In scripture, there's a lot of references to breath, and how, even when God created man, he breathed the breath of life into him. When he created the animals, he said he breathed the soul into the animals. And, I got to thinking about that. I'm like, the breath isn't just metaphorically the spirit. It's literally the spirit.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Yahweh is breath. It's Yah.
The very name of God.
It's the name of God, and it's every breath that we take. We're speaking the name of God, no matter who you are with your breath. So like, I agree, breath is key. I know, we've kind of talked about it too, where we've been on similar journeys but different paths to get to the spot. And so breath work has been huge in my journey also. In more run in the Christian circles, a lot is going around now, and a lot of people I know and hang out with, but the popular term is deconstruction. You're deconstructing everything you've known. I like the term better, reconstructing, because you can, when you deconstruct, you destroy. So sometimes we need to take it down to the foundation, but we don't have to destroy everything, and so you take it down, but you can reconstruct. You take it down to the core, the foundation, and then you reconstruct from there with different things. And so, so I'm with you on that, like, been on that journey, how important it is. And I believe it's super important to be a label breaker, because then you're taking it down, like you said, we're made in the image of God. Who is God? Who does he say he is? What, we've been told so many wrong things about him, especially Father God. Like, and we grew up in a Baptist background, in independent, but also pretty legalistic at times. And so that was a lot, of things, and of no fault of our dad, because like I am so thankful for what we grew up in and who he was, and mom and what they've taught us. And but there was a lot of wrong stuff just in that religion. In religion, there's a lot of wrong things in all religion. It's relationship where things happen, not religion. So,
well, I think it's it's interesting to hear you say that, because growing up the way we did, I guess only we know how we grew up. It was very ingrained in us, very, very deeply ingrained. It was of course Dad because he was a pastor, but being in the church and all the other elders in the church, and grandparents, and just Christian radio was on all the time. Growing up, it was just everywhere. We were just inundated with it. So it was a huge part of our building our character, our personalities, all of those things. And I've on my show, I've had people come on, that they came up in a strict religious upbringing, and some still follow the faith or consider themselves Christians. Others really threw the baby out with the bathwater because they felt it was just so damaging that they didn't want anything to do with any of it. And I think the wisdom is looking back on and seeing which things are actually good and true that you hold on to, and the other things that you let go. And some of the things that I've had to let go were pretty dogmatically indoctrinated into me.
Yeah.
And it's taken a lot to see it another way, I guess. Like for me, I guess, as you talk about labels, coming up in the church, you get labeled a sinner over and over and over. And, you first get that label at a very young age. Young enough to where most of us haven't done anything that bad. I mean, there's exceptions, of course, but...
like your sister trying to kill you with books when you were a baby, when you were your kid.
Yes, like that. But I mean, as a kid, you do things like you might tell a fib or a lie or cheat a little or something, but most of that is trying to stay out of trouble or trying to protect yourself or, survival in some aspect. And your little mind just comes up with a way to try and get out of the situation,
I was so much better at that than you. And Duke when he was little, he was so good. So good. That's why he's labeled the bad guy. I would try to get out of punishment so much, and Duke would just remind him, no, I gotta be punished. What, are you crazy?
Yes, I was a little martyr growing up. But that was because I carried around such guilt.
That guilt. Yeah.
Even at a very young age.
Guilt and shame.
So, I felt basically by being born, I was already guilty. Just by being...
well, I told you that.
Huh?
I told you that.
Yeah, you probably did.
Sorry, Duke. It was my fault. Forgive me. I repent. Why were you born? I don't need you.
Wow, this is going to be a therapy session. Okay.
This is a little off the subject, but I saw a meme the other day. A little girl, her little brother was born. They were holding him in the hospital. And she's like, why do you need him? You don't need him. You have me. You don't need him. I was like, wow, I think I probably told that to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, being the firstborn, I think it's got to be tough because you got all the attention. You were the center of the universe for
I loved it.
Year or two.
I loved being the center of the universe.
And all of a sudden, I come along and your universe kind of shifts, So, yeah, I can see how that, would affect you. But I think, a lot of it came from, what I was told, from behind the pulpit in the church and that sort of thing. And even just when we're not at church, it was just all the time reminded. And
well, it's a saying that people still say today, like I'm a sinner saved by grace, or I can I'm just a sinner. I'm just a sinner. I'm with you. I hate that word. I hate that word. Sinner.
And
now.
and I've even gotten this conversation with Mom, I think, a couple times about it. And I used to say, well, the Bible doesn't really say we're sinners; it just says we sinned.
Mm-hmm.
And then there might have been some scriptures I found that might use the word sinner. Now I can't remember, but it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. You sinned. That's the thing, But it's kind of like you have this ability to sin.
Right.
That's without question.
Mm-hmm.
We all have this ability to sin. But
we have the
does that
choice.
make our core of who we are bad, a sinner? And so that's what I've had to wrestle with for, quite a few years, because if you believe that your core of who you are as a being, as a person, is a sinner or bad, then it's hopeless in a way, because even if you become a Christian and you get saved, it doesn't really change your core of who you are. You're just kind of putting this grace on you all the time, saying, I'm forgiven, I'm forgiven, I'm forgiven. But you always see yourself as the sinner and the bad thing, the bad person, that has to constantly be begging for forgiveness. And I think that we're dualistic in nature, in the fact that we have also the good in us, the divine, that we are created with and born with. And if we didn't have that, then we would have no desire to be good anyways, or recognition of what is bad, because you would be bad. You wouldn't care about ever being good, right? So, I had to come back to, as being created in God's image, that makes me good.
Mm-hmm.
And even when God created man, He said it is good.
It's good. Yeah.
So, you get theologians say, yeah, but then we sinned and there was the fall, and so now we're not good anymore. But I don't believe that actually changed who we are.
No.
I think it put a programming and a parasite on us, that tries to identify as the sinner. Because if you can always identify as the sinner, you always have an excuse to sin too.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, are we good that mess up and make mistakes and do the wrong choice? Yes, without a doubt. But we're good. That's what I have to. I guess that's the core label
and
that I had to come down to.
And that's where you have to know the first identity of your Creator too, that He is good.
Right.
That He's good, and He made us good. And just this week, I was on a call with some ladies, and a new thought popped in. I mean, we're talking some deep stuff. I won't go into it on here because it's a little deep. But one of the things was with Adam and Eve, like in the garden, and when they, sinned and ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and so this isn't what we talked about, but this is one thing that always came into my mind of it was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So like you said, we are good. We were made good. God is good. They knew what was good. When they ate, they brought in the knowing of evil then.
Right.
And that didn't change them from being good, but it brought in the knowing of evil, which God never wanted us to know. He didn't really want us to know that, That's why he said, don't eat of it. You don't have to eat of it. You don't have to know evil. That's a whole nother thing. But anyways, what they were talking about is that they weren't the covering that God did when they sinned. I think she said it was Saint Ephraim is who said it. I have to go look it up again for sure. Because I'm just learning about Saint Ephraim, which is interesting.
Saint Ephraim?
Ephraim.
Ephraim.
Yeah.
The name of your son-in-law.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I wasn't supposed to say
yes,
that.
but yes. But so that's interesting. But what the covering that God covered us with, that they were saying was skin, because we were a light body. Like we were
interesting.
The glory of God. We were light, just like He is light. And so, and when that transition happened, that the light of God wasn't extinguished from us, that we became sinners, then it was taken away from us, but that it went inside of us. And the mantle of covering of light went in, and that's where the divine is. That's where heaven is. It's in us. And so it's this God, even Jesus said, it's not outside you, it's in you. And that's the journey that I know I've been on, and you've been on too, is to find that divine in us, not outside of us. And that's the journey I believe so many of us are on. So many are doing breath work, doing meditations, doing all the things, and we keep it on the external. I mean, breath work brings it in. A lot of that stuff does bring it in, but it brings it in while you're doing it in the moment, and it's hard to keep it all the time, to walk in that presence all the time, which He is our presence. And
well, that you mentioned that, I just wanted to kind of mention, I've done different, some breath things and some retreats and some meditation retreats and stuff. And the one thing that it's really trying to teach you is to bring your awareness to your breath, like all of your awareness, to the point where your mind isn't focusing on anything else except your breath. And when that happens, it's a funny thing that happens, because you just feel so free, and you feel so light. And I remember when I was doing the retreat, we had to breathe, focus breathing through our nose. And you actually, a lot of times when you do breath work, they're doing this hard, laborious kind of breath, But this breath work was basically trying to breathe as little as possible, almost. It's like trying to do the most fragile, just in and out breath that you can, and to focus on that sensation of the breath going in and out of your nose. And you get, for no better word, you kind of get high from it, actually. You feel just this great sensation, around your nose and even into your forehead, and it kind of radiates, and you feel kind of blissful, basically. I think is the best word, is blissful. And I realized that's the presence of God that we're experiencing when we experience that.
Be still and know.
Huh?
Be still and know that I am God. Yes.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think it's something that got lost in the Western world. I think it was, a part of religion, back in Jesus' day. Even I think, the Essenes and a lot of those people practiced that sort of thing. But then somehow, 300-400 years go by, and the focus is all switched to story and dogma and theology and real head-heavy stuff. And we got away from the mystical, experiential part of Christianity. And we lost that. And, for me to kind of get that back again, I had to go away from Christianity. Because there was, especially back in, like the 80s and 90s and even early 2000s, meditation was inviting the devil in, So, it took me a lot to get over that stipulation and recognize that we were being lied to, and we had lost a very, important and precious part of a practice that God had intended for us to do. And, being married to a Japanese woman, is a big part of that, going to Japan, seeing things from, their perspective. One thing that Ayami grew up with, which is very different than how we grew up, is she was always taught she was good. And I think maybe a lot of Japanese are, I'm not sure. She always classifies herself as like typical Japanese, but she's really not, in my opinion. I think there's a lot of Japanese that struggle, with that image of themselves. But she got a very strong self-image.
She's amazing. She
developed, and to be able to see somebody, that totally has that comes from a totally different foundation, and how that affects them, was a big thing in my life. And then also, adopting the meditation into my life, the practice of that was a big thing. I wish that our churches actually did it more,
I think it's coming.
You think?
I think because I'm a little more connected and still the Christian circles, like, seeing it from the Christian perspective, and it is becoming more mainstream. More and more are talking about breath, meditation, mystic things, supernatural things, like, things that we always have attributed to the devil, and that only the devil has access to them. Only the devil can use them. If you're using that, then the devil's using you, and you're being used of the devil. But no, God is the creator of all things. The devil didn't create that. He stole it.
Right.
He twisted it. He uses it, and he put it, to make us fearful of it, because he knows how powerful it is, and how powerful we are. I mean, that's what, it says, we walk not in a spirit of fear, but authority, power, and a sound mind. So the sound mind part, like, freaks out a lot of people, because sometimes, like you said, when you're
It's funny you said that verse, because it was a verse that just came up on my Bible app this morning.
Yes, it was actually, and the whole chapter of that, I dug in past that verse, and I was like, it talks about, I don't have my phone here because usually I always bring the scripture, and everybody knows I like to read my scriptures, but further down in 2 Timothy 1, it talks about the authority of the resurrection life, and that we are eternal beings, and that it's always, that life is in us, eternal life, and the authority of it, and that God gives it. And like I said, I don't got my Bible right here to like read that and share more deeply, but So that is one, we all keep that verse, authority, love, sound mind. But down further is even more. And I was like, I shared it with one of the ladies I was talking about. We were talking about, the light body and what that was on Monday. And I shared that with her because that's what we were talking about, that, the eternal life and like what we're walking in. And I shared those verses with her and she's like, whoa. I'm like, I know, so good. But yeah, like, because but I think that's coming, like, that it's going to be more mainstream, that churches are changing because we are the church. And so we're changing. So that's going to change the structural the buildings of the churches. And unfortunately, some of the big churches that don't want to change are maybe going to fall, and
Are making it
and
tough, you
that's
said?
going to be hard for some people.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's the destructing for the reconstructing. Like God even promises that in His Word, that He is going to get rid of everything that isn't Him. And so there's, like you said, you've seen it from Miami's side and the Eastern side, which a lot of them, they don't have to deconstruct as much because they never did get rid of the mysticism. I mean, even, some of our friends that go and rescue children and go to these different countries, and they are, they're literally seeing like giants and speaking to principalities over those nations that have been in control of them for so long because we let them. But now we're learning the power in us and to see and not be afraid. And,
Right.
For me, that's my personal journey, what He's taken me on, because fear was my biggest label that I had. And, I was one of the most fearful people of everything. Like, I was always afraid. And you took advantage of it. Lots of times you loved to scare me. Like, He was trying to break it off
I
of me, I
might
guess,
I
guys.
might
I
have
don't know.
something to do with that,
But
unfortunately. But yeah.
fear is like, and so that's like the confine that we've been kept in. And now, like, when He broke me out of that, when I started to recognize and see and confront a lot of things that I have been afraid of, labels, doing things,
Right.
demons, other people, whatever word you want to put on it. When I started to, recognize who I am, my identity, and who I am, the
Right.
authority that I have, the
Right.
power that is in me, Christ the living God is in me,
Right.
um,
And
it changed everything.
yeah, and a lot has to do with our focus. I was thinking yesterday, and how we have the Holy Trinity in us. We have the Spirit, the breath. We have the Father, the mind. And we have the Son, we have the flesh, the body. And how we should love it. So we're taught to love ourselves. Well, we weren't taught to love ourselves, but people are taught to to love yourself. You got to love yourself, and I believe that's true. And the Bible says, "Love your neighbor as you love yourself."
Yeah.
So it was like a common, unspoken thing. Yeah, you have to love yourself.
Right.
Somehow it got put into Christianity that loving yourself is prideful and can lead to, sin, downfall, and pride. But pride is not love. It's not. We mistake it for love, but it's not. And so, loving yourself to me is like, you love your life. Your life is your spirit, right? Your breath. You love it. And taking your attention and focusing on it is loving it, and your mind needs to be focused. That's what our mind is. And our body needs to be respected. So those all three things, consist of loving yourself, and the last one is everything, your whole has to be accepted. So you have to accept everything about yourself, which means the bad things too, because if you keep resisting them and pushing them away, it makes them stronger anyways. They just grow in the dark. So you have to put the light on and accept them. Even my bad parts. You go, okay, that's part of who I am, but it doesn't have to define me. It doesn't have to control me. It doesn't have to be the master. But it is there. It's part of who I am. I have to acknowledge it. That I have these drives or these passions or these desires. And I can't just pretend like I don't, or just keep pushing him down all the time. So I think that's what loving ourselves is all of those things combined, and has nothing to do with being prideful. So that's been a big thing for me, is to say it's okay to love myself. Because Dad, bless his heart, he struggled with that. And I even had discussions with him about it, like, yeah, but we should love ourselves. You should love yourself. No, I don't think the Bible says anywhere you're supposed to love yourself. No, that's not in there. That's wrong. And but that's also how we grew up. So to have to shed that label ourselves, whether our parents do or don't, we have to do it for ourselves. And hope that they can too.
Right. Well, and that's one thing that is common to my knowing is that, and I just actually heard on driving over here, I was listening to a podcast, and he was talking about the iniquities of the father and how they're passed on to the children. And the iniquities, the way he described it was like it's the sins of the father, as they say too, but it's like if the father is addicted to pornography, then that iniquity is passed on to his children through, they were talking about portals and open doors. So it's passed on through that open door to our children and to our line. So,
well, I mean, our DNA is a code.
Is a code. Is a door. We are a frequency. Our
right.
DNA is,
right.
And it's our frequency. So, if frequency, I mean, just like that, like they're talking like, it's an interesting podcast, but frequency opens portals, breath opens portals, technology opens portals. Like there's all these things that open portals. They're a portal. And so like you're talking like with Dad, and that is some of the stuff that I've working in, and this could get real deep, and we're at an hour, so we're gonna have to stop it.
Wow, really? Already?
But
wow.
But it was recognizing things that have been passed down through our DNA to me that I've taken in unknowingly or knowingly, and then I passed it to my children, and I can see. And so part of now what I'm recognizing, what is in my authority to do, is to change that, to change that in me. Like you said, we start with us, and I've learned to recognize what my body's done, my physical body, to try to protect me through the years, and brought sickness and disease on, but that also that was passed down through my generational line and genes, and I like connected to it too, knowingly and unknowingly. But to stop that, to stop it, and to be thankful, and to, like you said, like change the frequency in me to align with the frequency that's God's original design, like is his original frequency over the whole planet, because his original frequency is that we all live in unity and love, like we're all a family, all of us, you know, like he is a family, like Jesus said, I'm in the Father and the Father is in me and I am in you, and we're all in each other. So to live in that, and as a parent, to recognize the responsibility now that no, like I don't agree to passing that down to my kids, because then the other side of that is the promise that his love and his goodness and his provision and his abundance and his life is to just thousands of generations. The iniquities passed down to 7, I think it says, but the promise of his goodness is to thousands of generations. And so that's, you know, what I'm learning, reconstructing to live in that promise, that goodness, and not pass down that other anymore. And I see the hope of that, because I know, like I said, our journey, you know, we've gone different paths, but we're at the same center. You know, we're at the same center. So, and there's one of my favorite people says that there is billions of ways to Jesus, because there's billions of us on the planet. So there's billions of ways to Jesus, but there's only one, like Jesus, and that's where we all will all eventually get there, because that's his promise. That's his original intent. That's his original creation design, is where all will get to that point. Whether you choose, I mean, this is but I know we've both changed our opinion on hell, and even where heaven is now. But you, like you said, it's your focus. You focusing on heaven? Are you focusing on hell?
Right.
What focus are you going to choose? And we can live in the now. Like the podcast that just released this week, I'm talking about rest, and it's the promise of rest for today. Today's the day.
Well,
today.
you know, I was going to add a couple of things. You know, when I started going through this, 2 books kind of came to me at the same time. I kind of read them simultaneously. And one of them you gave me by Ted Decker. And was it called The Way?
The Way of Love. The Forgotten Way.
The first one was
The
Forgotten Way.
The Forgotten Way.
The Forgotten Way. And then another one was called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Or Tolle, I don't know how it says. But anyways, so I read them simultaneously. And, you know, Ted Decker comes from a very Christian perspective, even though what he talks about, a lot of orthodoxy Christianity would probably not accept.
Exactly. They call him a heretic.
Right.
Yeah.
And Eckhart, he comes from a pure, like, experiential, mystical perspective of just what he experienced and how he kind of got to where he was. Although he mentions Jesus a lot in his book, but how they were really saying the same thing. And how basically that is that the kingdom of heaven is here and now. And you're never going to leave the here and now. Because whenever you're thinking about the past, you're thinking about the past in the here and now. And you'll never be in the future. You can think about the future in the here and now. When the future comes, it will be the here and now. So why not just live in the here and the now fully? You know, which is it's such a difficult thing in our culture to do. It's a construct that we totally, you know, got out of. And I think, I went back to Europe recently. I went to Italy and got to walk around these beautiful cathedrals and museums and see all this magnificent, amazing Renaissance art all over the place, and these paintings of angels and God and heaven and hell, and they're beautiful. But it kind of started us a little bit down the road of taking our focus away from what's in front of us and appreciating the life that is here. Because we're drawing our focus up, to this beautiful painting of heaven and down to these scary images of hell. And, this starts the mind on, thinking about going to heaven and going to hell, which are both future things. They're not here now.
Unless we make them.
Huh?
Unless we make them. We make our life
but then
heaven or hell
then you
here.
end up creating either heaven or hell here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for me, like being taught a lot of the very scary, heavy fire and brimstone messages, it made me focus on hell.
Yeah.
Fearful of it, of course, and trying your hardest to keep everybody from going there, but you feel this this huge obligation, this huge pressure, this huge fear,
A lot of guilt and shame if you don't tell somebody.
a lot of guilt and shame if you don't, or if you didn't do it correctly, or
Right.
Even to the point where you'll just blurt it out in an inappropriate, awkward way just to
Make
get
all
it
your
out
friends
there
that come spend the
because
night
you
ask
did your
Jesus
duty.
in their hurt.
Huh?
Make all your friends that come spend the night ask Jesus in their heart before they're allowed to stay
Yes,
at your house.
exactly. Line them up. Repeat after me.
That's why my friends stop coming to the house.
And then you're like, okay, that's done. Now let's have some fun.
You're saved. Let's go. I don't know how many of them are still saved, but I hope all of them.
Right? So, it put a huge burden on us, and I don't think that it was ever the intention of Jesus, to do.
I mean, my mind could never reconcile it that a loving God would send everyone to hell forever, and that
Right.
if you didn't make that choice before you died on this earth plane,
Right.
you were doomed for eternity. Like your 70, 80, 100 years, if you're lucky, determines your whole eternity.
Yeah.
And so my brain could never reconcile that with the good God. So the way I
How could
did
you ever?
back
How
in-
could you ever do enough bad things in one limited lifetime to be punished for an eternity?
Yeah, and I would always be like, well, God, like I know, I trust you. Like I don't believe that you're gonna let anybody go to hell that's seeking you. Like however they're seeking you, whatever they call you, you're not gonna send anybody to hell because you're a good God. You're a loving God. That's who you are to me. So that's how I always reconciled it in my mind, but it didn't take away the guilt and shame of not telling people, because that was one thing Dad was great at, was being natural, but telling everybody about Jesus wherever he went and offering the opportunity to know him. And he did that everywhere easily all the time. And I, like me and Mom talked about it, like even joining all the network marketing groups and all the things. And it's like, how can I push this product, this thing, like to tell everybody, like that's the basis of network marketing.
Right.
How can I do that with a product, but I can't do it with Jesus? Like, if I'm not willing to like share that Jesus so boldly, like a product, then I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. Like, I'm disappointing him. That was one thing, The Forgotten Way. That book, like, I highly recommend it to everyone. I passed out 1 million copies to people, read it, I don't even, over 50 times, still pick it up and read it. But what it showed me in there was, one, that God is never disappointed in us. Like, we can't do anything that he doesn't know we're going to do in our life, like, already. There, like, Psalms 139 is our label breaker psalm, and it says, you can't go into the depths of hell. You can't go into heaven. You can't fly into the sun. You can't go anywhere. He already knows. And his every thought is of you. And I was like, God's every thought is of me? Like, holy cow. Like, but that was one thing, I could never be disappointed. And that, like, our earthly father, that's one thing that kept me to be good, is I never wanted to disappoint Dad. Like, I never wanted to disappoint him. And I remember one time I was going through a lot of health stuff. There was a lot of stress. There was a lot of things. And I acted out of character for me because my body was whacked out at that time. And there was a lot of chaos going on that day. And I remember Dad telling me he was disappointed in me. And that was the only time he told me it. But it crushed me. It crushed me. And we were actually on our, and I think it crushed him too, you know, but we were actually on our way to Lakeside, which is an amusement park.
I remember that day.
He was like, you know, whatever too, because I think it crushed him to say that he was disappointed in me. But he went to go ride the droppy ride. It's like Tower Terror, but it takes you up and drops you. And, you know, he's had heart issues, had this. He wasn't doing good that day, all these things. And I'm like, you booger butt. Like, I'm like, if you're on that ride and you die, your heart stops, and you die saying you're disappointed in me, you're mad at me, and this and that. And I'm like, no. So I, like, go over to him as he's strapped in the rod, and I'm like, I, like, love you. I'm so, you know, like, trying to, like,
you think he planned that?
Like, whatever peace. Like, if he died on the ride, I was like, my dad ain't gonna die disappointed in me. You know? But that's one thing, our father, like, God, he's not ever disappointed in me. And that, like, was a huge thing in my mind to bring off so much guilt and shame that he never was. And the other was, he keeps no record of wrong. And we say that, you know, in 1 Corinthians 13, that's one of the attributes of love, is no records of wrong. And he is love. But he keeps no record of wrong, but that's what we think, that's what I think, because that's what I did. That's what we do naturally is, you know, we keep these records of wrong, so then that's why we explode on each other so quickly, because we're always at an 8 or 9 to get to a 10 because we have all these past built records of wrongs. And when I did those two things and got rid of expectations off of people, how I expected them to act, and they wouldn't act the way I expected, so then I would ruin the today moment with them. Like, you know, they would come to visit or not come to visit or whatever, and it didn't go the way I wanted it to or expected it to. So then I would ruin the moment that was happening in front of me. So those 3 things were huge that I learned from reading The Forgotten Way, that started breaking off so many labels off of me, but to live that way with knowing I never can disappoint God, knowing he keeps no record of wrong, and neither should I. So I stopped keeping records of wrong of people too. Like it would hurt. I might keep it for a day or 2 a week, you know, or longer when I was first learning. Now I can get rid of it quicker when people do something that I want to keep a record of wrong of. I'm like, no, like, I don't have to keep it. It's just whatever, let it go. And then to, like you said, live in this moment. What is this moment giving us? Live in this now for however it turns out. Whatever it is, I have no expectation. Like, even starting this, you're like, well, what are we going to talk about? I'm like, we'll see. But, like, just in the moment of now, like not have to plan so much out, And I mean, God does, he says, have a plan and write it down. And I've done all that too. And I believe there's power in that to know. But I also know now, like, how much more freedom and rest I get and not holding that on myself either. Like, I need to do this, or I should have done that, or whatever, and just taking that just one step. Okay, one step, here's this time, let's do this time. And yeah, I can have a goal, like we have goals for our property to build retreats, we have goals for this, we still work. It's not that we just do nothing, but trying to do it, like I said when the podcast today, from a place of faith, rest for his promises for today.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
So with that, we're at 117.
Okay. Sounds like a good place.
So
You're
guys,
17.
I'm at 17. So I will end first and then he can end his show. But this is how I always end the Label Breakers. So this was a saying that our dad said to us growing up, and he says to my kids. And I continued it to my kids and my grandkids. But then I also realized that is from Ephesians 3:17. 17? But 17 through 20, actually, 14 through 20. But he always said, I love you as high as the mountains, as deep as ocean. Looking at you makes it more meaningful. Wide as the sky, with my whole heart. And Jesus loves you even more. So you guys know, that's how I end every episode. So I love you high, deep, and wide. So thank you for joining me on this 100th episode of Label Breakers with one of my favorite guests ever. And I'll let you finish how you want.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure. It's been an honor. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, sis. Just wrapping up my show. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this little bit different take on it. And as always, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.